All right, here we go, guys. This is ERGJ, your success coach, getting started here with our social media book club. You know what they say: if you put it in a book, no one will ever find it. Well, we're different. We are actually going to find these nuggets of wisdom in our books. We're going to actually start reading instead of watching. Because I believe that if you continue to read, you start to read, you're going to help your mind to expand, and you're going to start finding new ideas and new ways to become successful. And here's the deal, guys. If you ask any successful person out there, what are the keys to their success? The number one thing that is found in all of the surveys is they read. And that's very funny because we know what it takes to be successful, but yet we choose not to do it. And so my goal, my job here today is to encourage you to read. So I'm gonna be going through these books, these different. I'm gonna meet you every day at noon. I'm just gonna do this. This is a part of what I do on a regular basis. I read on a regular basis, and so I'm going to be opening up my library, which has helped me to become successful. And hopefully, you'll find some nuggets of wisdom. You'll find some things that inspire you. You'll find some books that you want to read that maybe aren't a part of your library, and it'll help you to be successful. And that's really it. That's the MO. That's what I'm doing. If I'm the only person here, it doesn't matter because I value reading, and hopefully you do too. So if you're here with me today, that's what you're saying. You're saying that you value reading and you want to read, and that's what we're going to do. We're going through the I'm sorry, I got why I got Richest Man in Babylon. That's obviously one of my favorites. But this is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. We're going to get started. This book was written in 1901. 1901. It's now 2015, so that's 115 years later that we're still reading this book. What does that say? That principles, timeless principles, they never fade away. 115 years later, we're still reading this book. Think about that for a second. 1901, James Allen wrote this, and we're still reading it today. It's been republished and republished and republished. So, As a Man Thinketh. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start reading. I'm going to go through these. It's really small chapters, real short chapters. And then if you want to, we can have a discussion about this chapter that we'll read, or anything that you find interesting we can talk about. And that's just what we'll do. So, James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, from 1901 by James Allen. The first chapter is called Thought and Character. Thought and Character. So let us begin. The book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 27, proclaims, As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. This adage reaches out to every condition and circumstance of human endeavor. Each of us is literally what we think, our character being the complete sum of all our thoughts. As a plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every one of our acts springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. This applies equally to those acts called spontaneous and unpremeditated as to those that are deliberately executed. Action is the blossom of thought, and joy and suffering are its fruits. Thus do we garner in the sweet and bitter harvest of our own plantings. We are what we think we are. If our minds have evil thoughts, we will suffer pain. If our thoughts are pure, joy will follow. Human growth is a natural phenomenon and not a creation by artifice. Cause and effect is as absolute and undeviating in the hidden realm of thought as in the world of visible and material things. A noble and godlike character is not a thing of favor or chance, but is the natural result of continuous effort and right thinking. The effect of long cherished association with godlike thought. An ignoble and bestial character, by the same process, is the result of the continued harboring of groveling thoughts. We are made or unmade by ourselves, by our thoughts. We forge the weapons by which we can destroy ourselves. Likewise, we also fashion the tools with which we build for ourselves heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. By the right choice and true application of thought, we ascend to the divine perfection. By the abuse and wrong application of thought, we descend below the level of the beast. Between these two extremes are all the grades of character. We are our own maker and master. Of all the beautiful truths pertaining to the soul, which have been restored and brought to light in this age, none is more gladdening or fruitful or of divine promise and confidence than this, that we are the masters of thought, the molders of character, and the makers and shapers of condition, environment, and destiny. As a being of power, intelligence, and love, and the Lord of our own thoughts, each of us holds the key to every situation and contains within ourselves that transforming and regenerative agency by which we may make ourselves what we will. Each of us is always our own master, even in our weakest and most abandoned state. However, in a state of weakness and degradation, we become foolish masters and misgovern the household. When we begin to reflect upon our condition and to search diligently for the law upon which our being is established, we then will become wise masters, directing our energies with intelligence and fashioning our thoughts to fruitful issues. Such is the conscious master, and we can only thus become by discovering within ourselves the laws of thought, which discovery is totally a matter of application, self-analysis, and experience. Only by such searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and we can find every truth connected with our being if we will dig deep into the mind of our soul, and that we are the maker of our own character, the molder of our own life, and the builder of our own destiny. We may erringly prove if we will watch, control, and alter our thoughts, tracing their effects upon ourselves, upon others, upon our life and circumstances. By linking cause and effect, by patient practice and investigation, and utilizing every experience, even the most trivial everyday occurrence, we'll obtain that knowledge of ourselves which is understanding, wisdom, and power. In this direction, as in no other, is the law absolute, that we will find what we seek for only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity. In this way, we can enter the door of the temple of knowledge. As a man thinketh, thought and character. So as we think about that, that is the chapter. That was it. I know it's really that was it. Yeah, that was it. And so the main thing is that as we think in our heart, so are we. And so kind of my takeaways, you can share your takeaways as well, Ralph, if you want to say anything or type anything. What you thought about that chapter is we become what we think about. If we're thinking of, good things, pure things, joyful. Oh, hey, Ralph, come on in, brother. Hello.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Ralph. How are you?
Outstanding.
Hey, good. I'm glad that you joined me live, man. We can have a conversation about this As a Man Thinketh. Have you read it?
Life is good. I'm in the process of writing a book called Plant Seeds Carefully, and it's under the same principle. As you were saying, there's the books is kind of a lost art, and basically I'm saying a lot of the same things that you're saying as a man thinketh, the law of attraction, a number of great books out there. I have a farm background, and planting seeds just relate to me.
Okay.
It just relates to me. In the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich,
Yeah.
he speaks about the fertile soil. The fertile soil has one simple job to do, and that is to grow a seed. The soil does not determine if it's a good seed or if it's a weed. It just grows it.
Right.
And I look at life. We all have our garden plots or our fields, so to speak, our life.
Our lot of life.
We get to choose. We get to choose if we want to plant a vegetable garden or a flower garden. We get to choose where we want to plant things in that garden. What vegetables do we want to plant in that garden? Likewise, in our life, we get to choose the things that we enjoy doing. We create our own life. We create our own garden spot, whether it's, like I said, vegetables or flowers. We choose, we make those choices, and we plant those seeds intentionally. And our physiology, our words, our thoughts, are those seeds that we plant in our mind, and we tend to care for them, and that's what we're going to reap. We cannot. I learned at a very early age on the farm that when we went out and planted corn, we harvested corn. We planted beans, we harvested beans. We never ever went out and planted a field of beans expecting to harvest corn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it is that simple. And then take it to another step. If we're out driving and we get cut off by another driver, society and the world tends to, talk about road rage, getting back. But if we stop and realize that we're planting seeds, when we get angry, frustrated, and we go out and try to get revenge, guess what we're going to harvest?
Yeah.
We're going to harvest that anger, that revenge. It's just going to make us less happy people. It's going to create, and I talk about it. I
got a question for you, Ralph. I think this is great, man. So here's a question for you, because you were on the farm, you're writing your book, and we're talking about planting seeds. So for people that have weeds in their garden right now, what is the weed removal process? From a farming standpoint, and then also from a soul spiritual standpoint. How do we get the weeds out? If it's been planted and now we're like, man, I see weeds in my garden. I see weeds in my mind. I see weeds in my soul. What's the weed removal process?
Well, first off, let me say this. I used to complain about the weeds in my garden, but now I thank God for those weeds in my garden, because it's his way of telling me, spend more time in the garden.
Okay. I got it.
Spend more time in the garden. And here again, we remember, we created the garden that is in our lives. We created, if we're in poor relationships, we created those relationships. Yeah. Okay. The first thing is to identify the weeds from the productive plant. The weeds, we have to recognize what we want in that garden, what we want in our lives.
Right.
Okay. And here again, when there's something that we do not want, we don't want to harvest cockleberries. Okay. we don't want to harvest that. So we need to remove those. And sometimes, let's be real, if we pull up a well-established plant, we're going to ruin other productive stuff.
Right.
Okay. So here again, we have to look at the big picture. What do we want? We have to visualize and believe that the garden that we want in our lives. We have to see the garden. Everything that was created was first created in mind.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so when we see things that are not in how should I say, in that picture that we want, what we're striving to, we have to make a process of removing them, and we have to remove them in a manner that we're not going to uproot the good.
Yeah.
Okay. But keep in mind something about the soil. When you pull a weed out, that opens up the soil and allows air to get in to help the productive plants grow. So that weed has a purpose. That weed is there to help us learn what we don't want in life. So if we're in, let's say, a relationship, if we're in a relationship that someone is not supporting us, that someone is pushing us away from what we want in our life, number one, you got to recognize it. Okay. And I'm not just saying throw everyone out of your life, because people are in your life for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so how can you help that person become what they need to become and enhance yourself? So if you got a weed in your garden that's growing and it's going to disrupt and pull out all the tomatoes that you planted, you got a big old weed that's taken root, and if you pull it out, it's going to pull out that beautiful tomato plant that's got fruit on it. Okay. Sometimes you need to go ahead and work around it and try to eliminate it when the time is right.
Right.
Okay. You just can't. We don't live in a perfect world. We're going to have weeds in our garden.
Right.
Eckhart Tolle talks about he walked through this chapel and he's seen this image that he's seen thousands of times. And that was the image of Christ on the crucifix.
Mm-hmm.
And if Jesus hadn't come down on earth and Jesus hadn't experienced the human pain, the suffering, the anguish, the turmoil, all the humiliation, all those negative feelings, if he didn't experience that, we wouldn't have the beautiful resurrection.
Right.
So what pain are we going through life? Because that pain, that anguish, that turmoil brought us to the resurrection, the beautiful resurrection. So the pain and anguish we're going through is taking us to a place that we need to be. So be grateful and be thankful for those weeds in the garden, because they're going to help us get us to where we need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I got another quick question for you, because I was actually listening to this.
I don't have a quick answer though.
That's fine. That's fine. It's not even a quick. You say quick question. It's really not a quick question. But I was listening to this. I think it was Earl Nightingale earlier today, and he said I think it's relatable. You'll probably be able to speak on this better. But if you were to go to a farm country, so to speak, and different people are doing different things with different plots of land. He said it's interesting that you will see that there are certain parts of that land that are better developed or better cultivated than other parts. And what's funny is, when I think of it, like, what happens to us all, right? So the same weather came down, the same same storms came through, but one farmer was able to cultivate the land to a much better degree or whatever than maybe other farmers that's in that same space, same area. So talk to us a little bit about cultivating and how some people are able to have a better harvest than others, even though we have very similar land.
Definitely. Definitely. We are all born with the same capabilities. Okay. And my grandma always told me, be careful who you associate with, because that's who you become.
Right.
Okay. And, and that's that farmer who has a productive crop or productive plot of land, he has to be conscious, be aware of what's going on in his life. And he knows that if he wants this, he's going to have to work and prepare the soil and have those goals to get what he wants. Mm-hmm. And we can go about, look at nature, it's beautiful. And the weeds here again, let me say something first about weeds. Okay. You know the definition of a weed?
No, give it to me.
It's a plant growing where it shouldn't be growing.
Okay.
That's the definition. Now think about it. I was talking about my garden. I plant tomato plants, and next year I go ahead and plant lettuce or cabbage, broccoli, whatever. And all of a sudden, some of the volunteer seeds from the previous year start sprouting tomato plants.
Right.
Well, those tomatoes are not growing where I want them to grow. Right. So they're weeds.
Okay, gotcha.
They're weeds. So the point being that the people in our lives, that sometimes we have to be careful who we associate with or who we stay focused with. Sometimes they can have a negative impact on us, and sometimes they can have a really powerful impact. And recognizing that will create that garden spot. Yeah. The farmer that doesn't have productive fields, and the other one that does, that's the only difference. They recognize what they want and what they don't want, where the other one is just lets it be. And letting it be, in nature, you go out in nature, the woods, the forest, the fields that growing with, sometimes we call weeds, are productive for, like, dandelions, for example. people think, oh, dandelions in my yard. Dandelions, the leaves are actually very nutritious. Okay. But when they're growing in our grass and they shoot off these little white flowers and that powder puff that flies all around, it starts more dandelion plants. Sometimes we curse at them, but they're in our life for a purpose. They have a meaning. They have value.
Right.
Okay. And it's so when I talk about, tending your garden, it's just that
That's
there's
good one.
so
Tending
much
your garden.
that are left. We're so abundant. It's just not to what we our anticipation, what we are expecting to harvest out of life.
Yeah.
But
we're getting what we expect because we didn't expect anything in the first place.
Well, exactly.
That's how a lot of people live their lives, right? We're getting out of life what we expect because we never expected anything anyway. But there are some people who have clear goals, clear expectations, and they tend their garden to get what they expect versus hoping and wishing that they get what they expect.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So having a clear picture, like I said, my dad knew what he wanted to harvest. So he planted corn in fields that he wanted to harvest corn in.
Yeah.
And we live in a rural area in Missouri where we have some good productive bottom ground and we have some clay, hilly, rocky ground. Corn and beans do not grow well in clay and rocky ground. Now you can plant grass and alfalfa that will produce better in that type of soil. So that here again, that goes to us with our talents. What do we like? What do we get excited about doing? Getting up each morning. My profession is real estate. I'm a real estate. I hate to say salesperson. I'm more of a consultant than I am a salesperson. Yes, I help people into properties that they want rather than just selling them something. Okay, that's my life. That's my passion. Whether it takes clay, rocky ground to grow it or sandy loam ground, find the passion in your life and, go out and enjoy what you do, and you'll have a productive and bountiful harvest. You'll want to tend that. You'll want to have that beautiful garden where if you dislike or kind of laxy daisy and just let the stuff go, and you'll have a natural wilderness effect, a wildflower effect.
So in essence, man, when we talk about tending to your garden, when we're talking about appreciating the weeds in a sense, one of the things, a couple words came to me. Number one, pay attention. All right. And then when I think of tending your garden, there is actually some activity involved in that. That's work. You know what I'm saying? That's work that's involved in this process of creating the life that you want to live. There's work involved in that. And it doesn't, I don't think that happens on the couch watching TV 5 hours a day.
Well, I guess you could call it work. Like I said, I enjoy, doing real estate, selling real estate.
Right.
Well, and to me,
let's replace the word work with productivity. Like if you love tending the garden, you don't think of it as work. That's just what you do. You go out and you work on your garden.
It's your joy.
Yeah.
It's your productivity or creativity. You're creating what you want in life. To go out and work. I guess you're talking about as a man thinketh. As a realtor, I never try to sell anything to anybody. Okay. If you come to me and I'm helping you and your family find a place to live, what I focus on is, what a house is. It's a place a family makes it a home.
Right.
And what I focus on and try to be the guidance counselor, basically, when you have a lifestyle that you like to entertain a lot, or you enjoy being out on a patio, what drives you? What is something that you truly appreciate and love in life? Okay. And I try to help those family guiding them into homes that they're going to have a wonderful life. Think about it. Helping people into homes is a very awesome career, because that's where families are going to bring their babies home from the hospital. It's where they're going to celebrate birthdays, where they're going to celebrate Thanksgivings and Christmases, or whatever holidays that they like to celebrate, okay, in their culture. They get to live there. They're making that, and I'm just a small part of helping them find that right place, to find that place to call home, that place to have that connection, to grow their families, to love and prosper. And I look at it as, I don't look at what I do as work. I look at it as creativity to help people, find that right place.
Right.
Likewise, I love to garden, so that's why I use that metaphor, so I don't mind being in my garden as work. I find it my place to create what I want in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you got one thing is that, so the thoughts, when we were talking about thought and character, the thoughts are the seeds, the mind or the soul is the lot or the garden, and
Is the
then
soil.
the harvest is what is produced from our life, what is produced from the thought going into the soul, and then eventually producing some type of harvest, and that's the harvest. The harvest is our life activity, and whatever thought we put into it, whether it's a thought into what you want to drive, was a thought into what you want to do on a day-to-day basis, was a thought on on real estate. That's the harvest. So our current state of affairs is the harvest of what we planted in our garden, being the mind or the soul, from all the thoughts that we planted, whenever that whenever that planting season was.
You get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, and who do you see looking back at you? Who's that person looking back at you? And if the person looking back at you isn't the person that you want to see looking back at you, don't beat yourself up, because those were seeds that you planted days gone by. Robert Louis Stevenson says, "Judge each day not by the harvest you reap, but rather by the
Seeds
seeds
that you
that
can
you
sow.
sow." Yeah, yeah. So realize that, okay, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing this person that maybe I'm not the best father, or I'm not the best husband, or I'm not the best. I may not have the best character. Don't beat yourself up over it. I mean, those are seeds you planted in the past. But what do you want to be? Plant those seeds today. If it's a person of character, if it's a person that's going to be a more loving spouse, plant those seeds. Do those things that is going to take you to that place that you want to be. And a way that I use for my judgment of the seeds that I plant is what I call the ego method. Ego, EGO.
Yep.
We all have one.
Yep.
And you know what EGO stands for?
Tell me.
Ego. It's edging God out.
Okay. Yeah.
EGO, edging God out. So any emotions, anger, frustration, resentment, prejudice, any of that, those are seeds those are things that push us away from God. But any positive emotions of love, kindness, caring, giving, those are all seeds that bring us closer to God.
So there are days when we talk about this weeds, if we just think about a day and we think about thought, man, the reality is, I guess our main objective, hopefully, is to plant more of what we want and less of what we don't, because every day we might plant some of what we don't want. I mean, it's just a reality. Like, it's a negative. The day is, we live in a negative world, so some days we just might plant some negative stuff. But the goal should be for us to plant more of what we do want and less of what we don't.
Exactly. Think about nature. Nature is so beautiful. There's so many lessons to be learned in nature, and nature has its way of blowing seeds. Birds carry seeds. Seeds attach themselves to people's feet. and you drag them into your garden, and they're going to grow. Likewise, in our lives, look at the stuff that's going on in the world. From Paris. Here again, the negativity, the TV programs are out there, the shoot 'em up. The people out there who are not, how should I say, that are living kind of a carefree life that or is not what we want to become.
Yeah.
Okay. Those thoughts we're bombarded. It's only nature to be introduced to all these thoughts, negative and positive, but we get to choose by being observant of our garden, by looking in the mirror and seeing who's looking back at us. And when there's that weed, that negativity, like I said, somebody cuts you off, our natural emotion might be to become angry, but that awareness, when we have that picture of exactly what we want to become, when we can see that garden and we can picture that garden in all the nice straight rows and all the nice lush vegetables growing, that's what we know what we want. And when we see a negative thought, a weed sprouting, that tomato plant that was sprouted from last year's crop, pluck the sucker out.
Yeah. Before it takes root.
Before, even if it's taken root, before it becomes destructive in our life.
Yeah.
Before it ruins us. That's, to me, it's not easy.
It's simple. It's simple, but it's not easy.
You just have to be attentive.
Pay attention.
Don't worry. Don't be complaining. Like I said, I used to complain about my weeds in the garden. Complaining then is negative.
Yeah.
But now when I see a weed in the garden, it's God's way. I look at it as God's way of saying, Ralph, spend more time in the garden.
Yeah. So Ralph, you are I followed you, so you can you can always do that as well. But you said you've got a book you'll be writing. You're working on the book now. When do you look to complete that book or publish that book, or when can we get a hold of it?
Well, my plans was to have it done by Thanksgiving, but I've been out in the garden too much. So
I'm gonna hold you to something. So what's the new plan? What's the new goal?
Well, I'm hoping to have it out.
Oh, we don't do hope. We don't do hope on this show. When are you gonna have it done by?
For Valentine's Day.
Okay. All right. Valentine's Day. We're gonna hold you to that. That gives you 4 months. That gives you, I don't know how many chapters wherever you are in the book, but now you got a concrete date, not a hope to date, not a wish to date, a concrete date.
I hear you. And I appreciate you calling me to task on those words that I use. the seeds that I planted. Like I said, I am working on the person that I want to be. But once in a while, those weeds do blow. The seeds do blow in the garden, and weeds do sprout. So the hoping was disrupted, was pulled out. Thank you.
My pleasure. Well, guys, we are going through the As a Man Thinketh, man. Just had a special guest, Ralph, join us. We're going to be here every day at noon. 30 minutes of book reading a day, man. That's really all it takes to start changing and start putting in some new seeds, some new thoughts, so that we can change our life and become who we want to be. Any last words for the people, Ralph?
Hey, plant seeds carefully.
Plant seeds carefully, man. Well, thank you so much, Ralph, for joining us, man. If you're available tomorrow, please join us again. But we'll be here. And then if you got any other books that you like to, recommend as we go through, we're looking for some short reads so we can get through it. Not necessarily easy reads, but, if the chapters are 2 hours long, we might not be able to do that here.
Life is outstanding. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a great week, man.
You too.